to dance. We're gonna dance. We're gonna dance. We're gonna get down.
Hello everyone, this is Chat Night Africa live from Washington DC metropolitan area.
We're gonna boogie, boogie woogie.
Chat Night Africa live about to begin.
It's out of sight. This song right here, it's dynamite.
Chat Night Africa live
I'm ready.
about to begin.
I'm coming. I'm coming back.
I'm coming back.
I'm coming back.
This is Chat Night Africa live from Washington DC metropolitan area.
We're gonna get down. We're gonna get down. We're gonna dance.
Chat Night Africa live,
We're gonna dance.
straight talk on matters that matter. John Santo and Marin Wayindi, our technicians,
Coming to
spinning the
get
songs
down.
and mixing the sounds.
We're gonna dance.
This is Chat Night Africa
We're gonna
live.
dance. I'm ready. I'm coming. I'm dancing. I'm dancing.
This is Chat Night Africa live about to
We're
begin.
gonna dance. We're gonna party. Party hardy. We're gonna boogie.
Chat Night Africa live about to begin.
We're gonna dance. Side to side. This song right here is dynamite. I'm ready. I'm coming.
I'm coming back. This is Chat Night Africa live from Washington DC metropolitan
I'm
area.
ready. I'm coming.
Chat Night Africa.
I'm dancing.
Straight talk on matters that matter.
I'm ready. I'm coming. We're gonna dance. We're gonna dance. I'm coming back.
I'm coming back.
I'm coming
This
back.
is Chat Night Africa live.
I'm coming. We're coming to get down. I'm coming. I'm coming to dance. We're gonna 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 get down. We're gonna get down. We'll party.
Hello everyone. Once again, welcome to this broadcast. Everyone who works expects to retire one day, just as everyone who lives hopes to die one day. But like death, retirement is what few people want to talk about. Why is that so? Retirement, whether you talk about it or not, whether you prepare for it or not, will sure come. It's inevitable. But what is it that scares people about talking about the subject, retirement? Is unpreparedness due to not enough earning? In other words, don't people prepare for retirement because they don't earn enough money or they don't earn a lot of money? Do some people not prepare for retirement because they haven't just heard about it or because they don't know what to do? Is it about how much book, how much education you have? These questions and more. Now, when we talked about retirement and when we thought about the topic for you as relevant, we did a lightning round of the kinds of issues people have. Rounds of how people prepare for retirement. Some people buy a home. Some people buy the homes hoping that it builds equity for them to tap into by the time they retire. Some people save a lot of money in the bank. Some people buy commercial vehicles hoping that when they are retiring, relatives would have saved or made a lot of money for them to retire on. I mean, there are just so many things people do. Some people invest in stock market. Tonight, we take a look at what option, each option that can yield big profits for you by the time you are retiring. And to answer the questions is our financial consultant. That is Mr. Pius Awa, who will be joining us from Houston, Texas. Now take note, running away from a problem only increases the distance from the solution. That's why we must talk about retirement and how you best prepare for it. If it is important to you, it is important to us. Tips, tricks on better ways of preparing for retirement. But before we travel to Houston, Texas to meet our financial consultant, here is the captain of Cameroon's Makossa national team, Toto Guillaume. Music time on Chatlight Africa. Share this video, tag it by your friends. This is Chatlight Africa Live from Washington DC metropolitan area. And if you're not from Cameroon, this is called and it's Toto Ladies and gentlemen, we will take you to Houston, where we have Mr. Pius Awa. He is the financial consultant at Chatlight Africa Live. Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to take you to Houston to meet Mr. Pius Awa. Mr. Pius Awa, you may now send your request to join. This is the captain for Cameroon's Makossa national team, Toto Guillaume. And you're watching Chatlight Africa Live. Metropolitan area. Invite your friends, share and tag. welcome to this week's broadcast, Chat Night Africa Live from Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. I am your host, Divine Chamukong. In just a moment, we'll be hooking up remotely with Mr. Pius Awa, who will be taking some very important questions from the platform. And please, if you have questions about retiring, you are better off asking the questions now before it gets late. Remember, you look for an umbrella not when it starts to rain, but before rain begins. Whether you talk about retirement or not, it's going to come. When you start work, the logical thing to think about is the day you will retire. How well are we prepared for that day? That day you get up from bed and you're no longer working as you used to work. You're no longer working actively, but your needs have not changed. Probably at that time you need more medical care than before. You need just lots of things to take care of. Well, maybe grandkids are also there hanging around you. So we have got to prepare for it. And the earlier you start, the better. Once again, welcome to Chat Night Africa Live. We will now check if Mr. Pius Awa is on the line. Apparently he is. In a moment, we will have him on our platform. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Hello, Mr. Awa. How are you, sir?
I'm wonderful, Brother Divine. How are you?
Fantastic, fabulous. Once again, thank you for coming on the platform. We appreciate you. Each time we come knocking, you are available.
It's my pleasure. Anything I can do to help.
First of all, how is Houston today? You are connecting from the great state of Texas.
It's wonderful. We had great weather today. It's beginning to get hot. It's the end of June, and we didn't have any rain, so that was great. And it was a beautiful Sunday.
Everyone, Mr. Awa, who works expects to not work someday. Not because you've been fired, but because there is a time you have to retire. In other words, you get up and the work is not the place you're heading to as we drive every morning or come back in the evening. Mr. Awa, retirement like death, people are not so eager to talk about. Why is that so? Is retirement a matter of how much book, PhD, master's degree, how many first degrees you have?
Absolutely not, Brother Divine. It's a part of building your financial house. In building your financial house, you must think the blueprint through. You must think it from the foundation, through the walls, through the roof, and your furnishing. And then, of course, you must think about what happens when I'm no longer here. Who does the house go to? So if we apply that same mindset to, if we look at our financial house in its entirety, then we must realize that we have to, just as we plan to have income and we plan to provide money to pay our bills, we need to also save and invest for our future. Because obviously, my hope is that everybody on this show tonight plans to retire. And if you plan to retire someday, right now you should be asking yourself the question, what are you doing about it? What is it that you have that is going to provide income for retirement? The second question is, what is that plan? How does it work? And how do you know that it's actually going to deliver the income that you require for retirement? The third question is, what are you going to be doing in retirement? Because in retirement, every day is going to be like a Saturday. So you have a lot of time. And what do people do when they have a lot of time? They have the propensity to spend. So what are you going to be doing in retirement? If you are one of those people that wanted to go travel the world and, climb the Great Wall of China and go to some exotic places in the world, will there be money for you to be able to do that? And then, of course, the fifth question would be, what are some of the challenges that you may have when you retire? For example, health challenges, or maybe you're still going to have a lot of dependents. You know, there are some people, 60 is the new 30, right? So they remarry and start having kids and stuff like that, which means that when they are 70, they're still going to be raising kids. Or maybe, to your point earlier, uh, you're buying a house in your 60s and you're taking a mortgage. How long is that mortgage? And where is the income going to come to pay for that home? And have you factored in the fact that if you took a 30-year mortgage, you'll be paying mortgage through your 90s? Will you be working as much? And the sixth question is, do you know exactly how much you're going to be getting in retirement today? And I'll end with this little uh, extension to that question. If you live in the state of Texas, like I do, and you work for the government, like most people do, or one of the government agencies where you're still lucky to have a pension, Brother Divine, uh, if you are going to be getting retirement income from a pension plan in the state of Texas, this is how you should calculate how much you will get in retirement. You multiply your total years worked by 2.3%. That is what they call the multiplier. So let's say you've worked 10 years before you go to retirement. You'll multiply 10 times 2.3%, which is 0.23%. Then you will take the three highest years of pay that you had. So your three highest salaries. Let's say you made 80,000, 90,000, or 70,000, 80,000, and 90,000. You add that up and divide it by 3, you will end up with 80,000, right? And you multiply 80,000 times 0.23% is somewhere around 18,000. So you'll be getting a 70% pay cut in pension. If you're making 90,000 today and you've worked 10 years, you will be making $18,000 a year in retirement if you went to retirement today. So I want to, before I transfer it back to you, I just want to stimulate our audience's thought processes with this. Imagine your lifestyle today at 100% of your income, and then imagine that lifestyle with 60% less of that income. This is what we are really faced with. So it's a great topic, one that should stimulate especially the listeners of this show, because most of us migrated here to give ourselves an opportunity to change our lives and to change our families' lives. And we got into a system where we work and all we think about is go to work and make a lot of money, and we don't think about where that features in our financial house. And so the reason, back to your original question, people don't think about it now and they leave it for later is because they don't look at it as part of their financial house. So hopefully we're going to touch on what makes up your financial house, where retirement comes in, and what are the things that we need to look up, some of the traps and pitfalls of retirement, and how to navigate them so we can start putting the right structures in place.
Mr. Pius, when I thought about this topic, I did a lightning round of what people think about retirement, how they're preparing for retirement, why people don't prepare for retirement or don't prepare enough or adequately or profitably for retirement. One thing I came up with is some people don't prepare for retirement for two reasons. Either they think they have a lot of time, ahead of them, or those who want to think they don't make enough money. They don't earn enough money to plan for retirement. Now, before I get into the information I got as to how people prepare for retirement, how do you react to the statement that some people think they have a lot of time? Some people say, well, I don't make a lot of money. What have I left to save or to invest for retirement? And this matter concerns you. If you're working today no matter how young you are, one day you will retire. It's inevitable. I'd like you to react to these two questions. By the way, if you're just joining us, you are watching Mr. Pius Awa, connecting from the beautiful city of Houston, Texas. Over to you, sir.
Okay, two great questions, Brother Divine. So first, I have a lot of time. So this is exactly the situation that the baby boomers today find themselves in. Okay, so that would be anybody that's 65 and older would be considered a baby boomer today. Okay, so these folks came up in the world when there was access to a lot of credit. Maybe when they started working 30 years ago, there were unions and stuff like that, and they had kids, and it was the American culture to have a big home, great family, large cars, live on credit and stuff like that. And there was plenty of time, and the economy was booming and growing for most of the 80s and for a large part of the 90s, but for maybe 2 or 3 years. And so a lot of people put off are saving for their future, saving for the retirement. Now, what is happening with those folks today is that most of them find their kids and even grandkids moving back in with them because those kids who happen to be Gen X's like ourselves are sandwiched between taking care of our parents and taking care of our own families, and it's not so easy. So there is a great danger about thinking you have a lot of time. And by the way, if you have a lot of time, you should understand the time value of money. Money grows with time. So the more time you have, the better for you to start planning for the future. Okay, so we really don't have a lot of time because you don't get back lost time. So if you had time, if you were a millennial today, if you were in your 20s and your 30s, and you have 30 years in front of you before your 60s, if you put away $10 a day at 8% compounding for 30 years, you will have $500,000, Brother Divine. $10 a day is $300 a month. If you could earn 8% on $300 every month, compounding interest, over 30 years, you will build $500,000. So for anybody that has 30 years today, think about it. What do you do with $100 a day? And for those that don't have 30 years, just look back and see what you did with $10 a day, where you would be today. That's the power of time. So for folks that think they have too much time, they may be walking into one of those traps that people fall into. And to the second part of the question, I don't have a lot of money. If you make money, the golden rule, the standard of saving is that if you make money, if you make $1, save 10 cents and spend 90 cents. So there's a 10% rule. Now, most people don't have a lot of money, not because they don't make enough money, but because they spend above their means, Brother Divine. They live above their means. Okay, so they may make $1, but actually their monthly expenses is $1.50, so they have to go into debt to cover that. If we live within our means, and then the last point I want to raise on that is, when you think about saving for your retirement, who are you really saving for? Would you rather pay somebody else instead of paying yourself? When you save, you are paying yourself. You mean, I took my paycheck today, I have the landlord, the cable guy, the phone guy, the car note person, and the mortgage to pay. But I am the guy that earned this money, and I have a future to plan for. So I pay myself first. I take my savings out before I start paying any bills. That's a habit that we all have to form in order to change that dynamic of not having money. We really have money, but we're spending it on things that we don't need instead of, we're spending on things that we want, not on things that we need. So we cannot save. So that's the way I'm going to address those 2 points.
Thanks for those illuminations, Mr. Pius Awa, connecting from Houston, Texas. Now, I talked to a lot of people around. I listened around. I called people back home to know how people tend to prepare for retirement. I talked to folks here, a lot of us here in the diaspora, how they prepare for retirement. Here's some of the things I got, and please take note. People buy a home hoping it builds equity, which they tap into when they retire. People build houses for rent. And you talked about savings. People save money as much as they can in banks. And so they make sure that they swell up their accounts as much as they can and as quickly as they can. Some buy commercial vehicles. For example, you sit here, you buy 2, 3 taxis and send to a relative back home, hoping that by the time you retire, maybe there are 20 more taxis that have been bought because of the first 2 or 3 that you put on the road. Some people invest in stocks. They buy stocks. Now, I'd like you, Mr. Pius Awa, to take each of this that I've raised and analyze it to see what its strength or its weaknesses. Let's start with buying a house. Is buying a house, whether in the United States or Europe, an investment? What is it? We usually see it as an investment. Is it? If it's not, why
Yes.
not? Or how is it not?
Okay, great question again. So buying a house is, especially here in North America and in parts of Europe, it's a necessity. You have to have a place to live, and if you pay rents for the rest of your life, then you really don't have ownership and you don't build equity over time. But as a retirement planning tool, it is a liability. It's not an investment. You have to go into debt. For most of us who live in North America and Europe, we have to take a mortgage in order to buy a house. And so for the years that we are paying for that home, that is a liability. We don't really own the home, we own the debt. We own the loan on that home until it's paid off. And we are paying that with interest, which means that the longer we pay that mortgage, the less time and resources we're going to have to save for ourselves, because if you have debt, debt is actually the enemy of wealth, because as long as you're paying debt, you never ever have room to save and build wealth for yourself. Okay, so unless you're home now, if you have money, and you can buy a property and put on rent or business building and lease out, that becomes an investment. Now, if you collect the rents for that home and you're able to pay off the mortgage and keep a profit, let's say your mortgage is $1,000. That's what you pay for your loan, and you you charge $1,100 in rent, and when you pay $1,000, $100 goes to your pocket. That becomes an investment property, and that $100 adds up because now that property is an income generating investment. So there are 2 misconceptions here. A home that you live in, if it's not paid off, it's actually not an asset yet. It's a liability. You may have equity in the home, but you still need a place to live. And if you retire, if something happened to you today, your family may not be able to afford it if they cannot provide for your income. Now, the second part is build an investment property overseas somewhere. People from the islands do this. A lot of us from continental Africa do this. I have family and friends who have investment properties they build on university campuses or in university towns, and it's lucrative. Okay, so my father told me as a young man, son, if you have money, buy land and build houses. It will never go wrong. In our culture, that's something that's very lucrative. Okay, but you have to understand that if for somebody who lives in Africa and really don't have access to more sophisticated and modern retirement planning vehicles like we have out here in the West, that may be their only option or their main option. If you're here, if you left Africa to come here to build a future for yourself, and everything you're doing here, your retirement is hinged on a property that you're building, then you're not doing the first thing you need to be doing about investing, which is diversification. Build a house, but have an IRA, participate in a 401k at your job, and have some savings in a plan that grows for you that you design. And you have to think about other things. If you get sick tomorrow, you have heart disease or some crazy thing, what would it cost? It may take you selling that property to be able to get treatment. One visit to the hospital could cost you $500,000, and everything that you've hinged your retirement on is out in the wind. What happens next? And then, of course, savings in the bank. So I
We'll
wrote
get to
here
that.
on my. Okay.
If you don't mind, sir, we'll get to each point. The other part that I would like you to clarify about buying a home, what should people have in mind before going to buy a home?
Okay, so that's probably a topic of its own, and
Absolutely, that's very true.
yeah. So from a financial advisory standpoint, right? Again, a home is actually part of your financial house because it entails, it's for most families, it is the largest dollar item that they're going to purchase in their entire life. Okay, so you may pay for 3 kids' college and still never come up to the cost of $500,000 home if you're lucky. In the future, that may not be the case, but everything is going up, so the cost of homes too will go up. So there is a lot of planning that has to go into that high dollar item that we have to purchase. One has to be, are we ready for it financially? Which is what the banks will do. The banks will check your readiness. They'll check your job stability. They'll check your credit, and they'll check your credit simply because they want to determine if to charge you a high interest rate or low interest rate. If you had good down payment, even with bad credit, you could still get a loan at a high interest rate. What that does is you pay for a long period of time because you have a lot of interest and you never get to build wealth for yourself. So it is you have to plan as a family if that's what you guys need to do, and if you have, you know, the wherewithal to be able to handle the mortgage. If you have, and underlining this plan, the most important thing has to be, if I have a 30-year mortgage, do I really want to pay it for 30 years? Can we?
What's wrong with that?
Okay. Two things. If you bought a house, Brother Divine, for $250,000 and your mortgage is $1,500 a month for that house, and you're on a 30-year mortgage at 6%, you will end up paying about $540,000 if you pay it in 30 years. So you basically pay for 2.25 house over 30 years. If you pay that mortgage in 15 years, you would only pay about $330,000 thereabouts. Okay, which means that you would save a ton, and now you have 15 years to build, to put the difference to yourself. So most people, when they go into buying a home, they just look at, are we going to be able to afford the mortgage? What we need to pay? Can we pay the $1,500 and pay our light, water, and gas and other things and make it through? So every money that comes in goes to pay the mortgage, and there's little to save, which brings us back to why they cannot save. They don't have anything left over at the month end because they are running on the wire. They didn't have a plan. And because they do that, they end up paying for 30 years. Okay. Now, if you plan right, you should also have a time frame for which you want to have the house paid off. Okay. So two things happen. The reason it's wrong is you pay more in interest rate and you take a long time and you don't save money for yourself. As simple as that.
Point number two, you talked about saving. Yeah, people save a lot. You go to the banks, they're advertising their CD accounts and so on. Is savings with the bank a good or bad idea? Either way, explain your point, sir.
Okay, that's a that's a very, very good question. I like that, and I'm gonna answer that with two illustrations. Okay, the first illustration is this in my hand. It says the four cornerstones of a solid financial foundation. Wherever you put money, and for if you're watching, just scribble this down on your paper. Just draw a square box, or split it into four boxes, and in the top right hand top left box, you put in growth, safety, tax advantages, and protection. If you're saving money, you should ask yourself, can it grow? Is it safe? Do I have tax advantages when I pull the money out? And do I have protection on that money for my family? What this simply means, protection, is if something happened to me today, will that company that holds that money for me give me something extra for keeping my money? Okay, so if you look at the banking system, and I illustrate that again by another thing, if you look at these four boxes, you look at the bank only gives you safety, because in your checking accounts, savings accounts, CDs, and money market accounts, you pay taxes, you don't have any protection. The bank never says, Divine, you've banked with us for 10 years. And for these 10 years, you've always had a balance of $10,000 in your account. So now that you are sick, we're going to give you long-term care for $100,000. No way. They don't give you any growth either, because as you very well know, the bank will give you less than 1%, less than 0.5% in interest rate in any one of these accounts. Okay, so now when you look at the investment industry doesn't have growth, because if you make money, you can lose the money. So the growth cannot be kept, and so it's not safe for somebody that doesn't have risk tolerance. They don't have any tax advantages, they don't have any protection. You are on your own, you win and you lose. The insurance industry, on the other hand, has a more consumer friendly arrangement. They say, if you save money here, we're going to give you life insurance. So you will have protection in this four box. You have protection. The first thing we'll give you is that for saving your money here, we're going to give you some protection. The IRS has ganged up with these people and say, well, anybody that buys life insurance that has cash value in it will have tax advantages when they go to withdraw the money. So by default, insurance plans have tax advantages built in them. Now, the insurance company guarantees your money, but they also give you, which is safety. Because it's an insurance contract, you have a guarantee. The minimum that you can get is guaranteed you. And then they say, we're going to give you interest rate. And this is where it becomes really interesting, because depending on what arrangement you select, you could select an interest rate that will help you outpace taxes and inflation. And so you can build wealth, which brings me to the third point to answer that question. The reason it is not smart to save for your retirement in bank is this. When you save, you must give money time. Yes, you can leave money in the bank for as long as you want. If you're earning less than 0.5% on it, it will take you, if you're earning 0.5% on your money, it will take you 132 years for your money to double at 0.5%. Okay, so I can talk about the formula, how to get to that. So if you have $10,000 in your bank, Brother Divine, and you want to find out that your bank is paying you 0.5% on that $10,000, it will take you 132 years. 72 divided by half is 132 years for 10,000 to become 20,000 at 0.5%. So if you stay at the bank, you will never grow money. Now, when you save money, you should understand the wealth formula. You must save money, you must give money time, and you must give it a positive rate of return. Why positive? Because there is such a thing as a negative rate of return. Anything under 3% is a negative rate of return, because you will not outpace inflation and you will not outpace taxes. So taxes is about 25%, inflation is about 3%. So if you earn 1% in your bank, inflation is already 3%, so you're negative 2%. When you pay taxes of 25% of your gain, let's say you made $1 out of $10, okay? You pay taxes 25 cents because you made $1. Your taxes on that dollar is 25%. So 25 cents. Now you're left with $1.75. $1.75 minus 3%, that is what? That's about $97. So even though you earned 1%, you have less money because your money is worth less than what you started with. I don't know if but I hope I didn't lose anybody. It's very important. I'm hoping people are taking notes because this is very, very critical to what we're talking about. Understanding those three
In
concepts.
essence, Mr. Pius Awa, saving money in the bank isn't the smartest thing to do if the purpose is to prepare for retirement, regardless of the account, whether it's CD or money market. Now, Bridget Gamo is watching from London. I don't know what types of accounts your banks in London have, but here in the United States, basically from the mathematical analysis that my guest has given, it is simply not smart to save your money in the bank, no matter how big the account is, hoping that it helps you at retirement time. We will get to what is smart, therefore, to do, because if there are dumb ways to do it, there are certainly smarter ways or smart ways to do it. Now, let's look at investing in by buying stocks. Some people say, okay, we buy stocks and so on. What are the minuses and pluses in buying stocks as a way of investing for retirement? And it's very important to talk about this. This topic isn't always very comfortable for many people and for reasons we have talked about. But again, take note, running away from any problem only increases the distance from the solution. That's why if it matters to you, it matters to us. At Chat Night Africa, we talk about matters that matter. Mr. Pius Awa, help us understand why buying stocks is or isn't a no so smart idea.
Okay. So investing is not gambling, and the approach I find most people use when it comes to the stock market is a gambling mentality. It is this notion. I'll give you an example. Most people in the United States participate in a 401k because the job offered it and because their friends at work participate in it. They don't know how they pick the stocks. They think it belongs to their company. It's not. And they think it's a plan. It's not. So again, when you go to buy stocks, which is outside retirement planning, if you buy stocks or buy securities products, which are maybe stocks, bonds, or mutual funds, which are a combination of many different stock options that you buy into so you can have diversification. They're called mutual funds. So when you go into this kind of investment that involves the risk of you losing your money, you want to come in with a bit of education and a bit of self-assessment. Okay, and again, savings and investing is all part of that financial house, Brother Divine. And where does investing in the stock market fall in building your financial house? Is it the foundation? Is it the walls? Is it the roof? Or is it the doors and the windows? So if you have put the foundation, obviously you want to raise the walls. And once you've raised the walls, then it's time for you to put the roof. So you have to know where investing in the stock market comes in and whether you have the risk tolerance or at least have some support. So typically, what most people dabble into again is the expectation. In the market, there is an expectation of growth. Okay, but we have to know where we are as individuals. Do we have the ability to lose money in the market? Do we have that understanding and the ability to lose money in the market and bounce back? Two ways to assess your risk tolerance. You can assess it by your age, knowing that, okay, well, I'm young, so if I lose everything, I have a lot of time to start back and build up. Or I have enough money, I can afford to invest, take some risk, and lose money, and I have other plans that are more diversified or guaranteed and are not that exposed to risk. So I have a fallback plan. Which one are you? Now, when you've decided that, then you can pick the right investment for yourself. Is it buying stocks or is it buying mutual funds? So I usually recommend buying mutual funds because mutual funds give the individual some risk diversification. Because if you bought a stock, in fact, most people buy a stock because the stock has become popular, is hot. Do you think, let me ask anybody on here, would anybody buy the stocks of Waste Management Corporation, for example? Nobody ever hears about it. They pick your garbage every day. Okay, but nobody will think. Everybody wants in on Apple, they want in on Amazon, they want in on Facebook, they want in on Uber because these are popular and they are trending. Okay, and they may not be the right stock for you because they've already been priced above your limit to be able to do any successful bidding. So maybe you need to go into a mutual fund, which will give you access to a larger fund portfolio and diversify your risk. And I know I'm talking over people's heads here. We can break down some of this stuff. But a mutual fund is basically like a pool of money. So you have 100 people who want to buy Walmart stock, Amazon stock, Google, Facebook, but we all have $100 each. And all those stocks by themselves are $100. So I don't want to buy one stock. I want to be able to buy many. A mutual fund puts all our monies together. So $1,000 can now buy into a fund that has shares in Amazon, in Google. They have some government bonds. So now we have, as a pool, we have participation in a vast majority of companies out there. Okay. And so we are diversified. If Google is not doing well, Caterpillar is going to be doing fine. Maybe the bond market is going to be stable. The interest rates are going to be low or whatever. So we can make money and diversify the risk. For somebody that has low risk tolerance, that's how you get into the market, not by jumping in to buy stocks. So it's all about knowing yourself, having the right help and stuff like that. But we should know that we lose money in the market and we make money. When the markets are going down, are we running out or are we buying more? So
very important question, but I have a follow-up here, sir. When you talk about risk tolerance, what risk are you talking about when people buy stocks?
Okay, so yeah, the risk is the risk of losing your money. So let me illustrate that by this. So we talked about bank. Bank gives you safety. They guarantee you that whatever you put in their banking institution, when you come back, you will get it. So you don't lose your money. But they almost certainly guarantee that you will not make any money because they pay you so little interest that it will not amount to anything. In the investment industry, when people go now to buy stocks, they go because of the expectation that the market is going to go up, like my graph is showing here, and they're going to make money at this top. What they forget to realize is that as you go up, so too will you go down someday. And that is the risk I'm talking about. The risk of investing in a stock fund and the market goes down and you lose not only the gains you might have made, but what you brought in. Remember in the case of the $10 earning 10%, $1, right? If the market, if after earning $1, the $10 lost $10, now you'll be losing 10% rather. You'll be losing 10% of $11. What is 10% of $11? It's $1.1. So you will be at 90 something, not even the $9 and change, not even the $10 that you started with. So you have to make up for the loss before you can make up for the gain again. Okay, and if we had time, I'll go into the illustration of how that works. But the risk I'm talking about is the risk of you losing in the market, and it's very real. And if you don't have an understanding, you may rush and buy some stock because of the euphoria, and then the market crashes. It happens all the time. It happened on May 4th. Uh, it happened a year ago with the cryptocurrency bubble. A lot of people dove into it without understanding how it works. And and of course, when it was going down, a lot of people bailed out, and it's going back up now. And expect that a lot of people will rush back into it because it's going back up. You understand? So they should have stayed when it was down. Anyway, but that's the risk I'm talking about.
Now, I'm sure that everybody now watching online is scratching their head. So, what really should we do? You put your money in the bank, it yields nothing, regardless of what how beautifully the bankers craft these things, market it to sound like, yeah, this is the place. You put your money, you buy stocks. The markets are so volatile. You can make money today. Tomorrow, the whole thing is wiped out. Tell me, sir, tell these people watching, and if you like what you are saying, share the video, help somebody with it, because at Chat Night, we empower you by bringing you a certain level of quality of guests like Mr. Pius Awa. Information is power. The day you stop learning, you start dying. Question, learning time. What should people do, Mr. Awa?
Okay.
What should people do? Look at this guy, look at this woman or this gentleman making, let's say, $100,000 a year. And you know how much chunk of taxes that will be cut off by the government of the United States. So what should people do? They must be asking you that question now, sir.
Yes, so I can never say this enough. It starts with an education, Brother Divine. We were not taught these
And I
things
want
in
to tell
school,
everybody, please pick up if Mr. Awa, sorry for interrupting you. If you watching did not have a piece of paper and pencil, this is the time to grab one right now. You see the head of Mr. Awa, it's loaded. Mr. Awa, come on, go on.
Okay, so it all starts with the financial education, and we don't do that. It's not done in any of the school systems that I've been in. We learn all kinds of things. We learn the anatomy of a butterfly, of a frog. We learn about, people that, we really don't care about in history. We read all kinds of Shakespearean literature, but nobody tells us or teaches us how to manage our money. So in the solution to the problem starts with a financial education. Okay, so uh, on my sheet of paper, a simple formula like this, which is called the wealth formula, could be a game changer for how you decide to figure out where you save. Okay, uh, and by the way, most people don't even know that there is such a thing as a wealth formula. It's no accident that the people that have money continue to make billions of dollars while those that don't continue to struggle. It's because they've gotten the science down on how to make money. So you must save money. So for the person that thinks they have a lot of time, they may not. You have to start saving today. For the person that thinks they don't have money, nothing would happen. If you don't save today, it's only going to get worse. So you have to start with savings, which entails a habit, a change in habit. Now, when you save, it says savings plus time. So when you save money, you have to give it time. Money only grows with time. While money is sitting and growing, it needs a positive rate of return, as we identified earlier. That positive rate of return should help you outpace inflation and outpace taxes. So in the example I used before, if your $10 makes 10% a dollar, and you paid 25 cents of that dollar that you earned in taxes, now you are left with, am I saying that right? Yeah. So you're left with 1075, right? Whatever. And you factor in inflation at 3%, that's 3% of 1075, which is like what? 725 or something. So you actually lose almost $3 out of that, or $2.25. So you have to do things differently. When you understand a simple formula like this, you know that you can never cut it at the bank. I have to go someplace else. And when we talk about the inherent risks in the market, you know that, okay, I want to build that strong foundation. I want to secure my money for as long as possible and feel comfortable before I start taking risk. Where do I go? There are places in the financial industry. The insurance industry offers a lot of opportunities for you to hedge against the risk of losing your money, but also gives you growth for your money. So if you saved in cash value life insurance, for example, okay, uh, the insurance company say, we're going to watch this market. For example, whenever the market is going up, we're going to pay you anything that the market returns up to a certain point, maybe 11%, maybe 12%, maybe 15%, depending on company and product. Now, if the market is going down, we're going to guarantee that you will never ever go below a certain threshold. That threshold could be 0, or it could be 1%, or in between. Meaning, if the market drops negative 10%, Brother Divine, and they lose money, you will not lose money. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Or you might even get paid some money. So your guarantee could be 0, your guarantee could be 1%. They may say, if we lose money in the market, we guarantee that you will never earn less than 1% in this account. Now,
Let me just ask you a quick question. So just a quick question, interject here. Usually, some people are reluctant getting into the insurance business because they think that, well, insurance is about somebody getting the money when I've died. Is it possible? Are there options that you can actually invest in the insurance industry, still getting money? Money is building up for you when you are. I underline that, when you are alive.
that's a good question. Maybe we'll do a show on understanding the insurance industry. It's a whole chapter in this book that I was about to recommend for everybody on the show tonight. It's an 84-page must-have, must-read for every household called "Saving Your Future." It has a whole chapter on insurance. So insurance, yes, is the most misunderstood uh, financial planning instrument out there because of the fact that most people don't understand how the insurance industry works. They only deal with insurance when they have a loss. They only start looking for insurance when they're in trouble. They only start calling their insurance company when they're in an accident. And of course, most people don't want to talk about their mortality, so they don't want to talk about life insurance. Nothing could be further from the truth. It is the most powerful financial services planning tool. I can tell you without a doubt that no financial planner is going to sit with you and set a plan for you without ensuring that you have a life insurance plan or that your assets or valuables are protected. It is not an accident. It's not because they want to sell you some insurance. It is because nothing that they plan for you would mean anything if something were to happen to you before that plan matures and your family has nothing to fall back on. So it is not actually, if you really care about your family, you will get more insurance. You will not get less. You want to talk about it because you don't want to leave them destitute. So we're going to do another class. But of course, let me illustrate again in my diagram here how that would work. So I want to talk about saving in an insurance plan that gives you market style earnings, but without the risk of losing your money. Okay, so an insurance and a cash value life insurance, like what we call an indexed universal life, which is one of the most dynamic hybrid insurance products there are in the market now. Indexed universal life, you can look it up. It's basically a universal life insurance policy that has an indexed account option attached to it. What is an index account option? An index account simply means that you participate in an index. Okay, an index is a conglomeration or a combination of certain companies or industry types. So if you've heard about the Dow Jones Industrial, that's an index. If you heard about the S&P 500, that's an index. So the Dow Jones Industrial combines industrial companies in North America, okay, a certain number of them, over 200. And the S&P 500 combines 500 large cap companies. Large cap simply means that they have assets of over $500 billion. So they're called Fortune 500 companies. Okay, so those large cap companies form an index. You could have what we call blue chips. Blue chips are smaller companies, mostly tech companies. All these are indices, the plural of index, of course. So now
let me cut in quickly
the
here, just
insurance
very
company.
quickly. Yes,
Yeah.
sir. I just wanted to ask you, as you explain, people would like to know how the cash value life insurance, it sounds like music in my ears, and it must be sounding like music in the ears of those listening to you.
Okay.
How does it work for somebody while that person is still alive?
Awesome. So that's what I was trying to illustrate. And I just wanted, so one of the things, the reason I break stuff down a lot is because I'm afraid I don't want to be talking over people's heads. One of the things that I realize is that people go to a lot of seminars, and and stuff is said, and we just assume that everybody listening understands the words and terminologies that we use. So forgive me for
Okay.
taking a lot of time, but
That's okay,
I
sir.
was trying to explain that. So the insurance company basically tells you that, Brother Divine, we're going to look at any one of those indices that I call, right? When they are trending up, we're going to give you a cap, or what they call a participation. So let's say they say your cap is 15%. It means that if the S&P 500 is doing well, which is your Walmart, your Amazon, your Google's, GE Money, Nike, Coca-Cola, all those 500 of them in the United States, whose stocks we drive up every day because we go to Walmart, we pump gas, we use electricity, we buy appliances. So we're driving these stocks on a daily basis. So it is one of the most reliable indices in the world. So let's say that they give you a cap of 15%. They give you a floor of 1%. It means that you will never make less than 1% if those indices are in the negative. They will always pay you 1%. But if those indices are going up, you will get everything up to 15%. If the index returns more than 15%, you are capped at 15%. It's just an example. There are different flavors. Some say they don't give you a cap, they give you a participation, which means that if the market goes up 10%, your participation may be 8.5%. So you get 8.5% out of the 10 or whatever. So, but what happens is your interest get credited based on the market index, and you keep the growth, and it compounds over time. And I'll illustrate that here and just show you a little bit so that people can understand. So now we have the red line, which is your S&P 500, or if you like, or your stock market going up and down. And then this is your index account. You participate up to your cap, which is 15%. Market goes down. You never lose money, because let's say you had $15 on your $100 investment. Now you are at $115. The market falls. You don't lose the $115. You just make the guarantee floor, which is 1%. So you add another $1 or $1.50. Market goes back up, you participate, keep the growth. And so you keep doing that over the years while the market goes up and down. And because of the compound interest and the fact that you never lose money, you can build a tidy sum of money in your account, which you can take and use during your life, either to pay for college for your kids or to supplement your retirement. The beauty about this is that for using this account, they also give you protection. So they also say, Brother Divine, we're going to cover your family for maybe $500,000 or whatever you qualify for. They give you an umbrella of protection here. Okay, so now maybe you have $250,000 after 20 years built up in this account. You have life insurance for $500,000. Now there are no free lunches. There's a cost for this $500,000. Okay, but when you set up this account, you want to set it up in a way that you fund it so that the interest rate that you will be earning on the money that you are saving is what is paying for the cost of your life insurance. Okay, and you will never worry about losing this money. And in a lot of hybrid products today, this is not only death benefit. You ask me, most people don't want to talk about this because they don't want to talk about something that's not going to benefit them when they are alive. And I asked you a question. Do you think you may get sick in your old age? If you are planning for retirement on this forum, have you thought about the fact that you may develop diabetes, heart problems, arthritis, Alzheimer's, whatever? Have you thought about who will pay for your care? Who will come and will your spouse leave their own retirement to take care of you? Will your kids leave their future to take care of you? What if this $500,000 was accessible to you to use while you're alive to pay for the cost of long-term care? Would that be awesome planning? That's what you can do with a plan like this. Now, we're not just talking about some insurance, remember? Or we're talking about over investment or over banking. I don't want people to get the wrong idea. We're not trying to sell them on some insurance product. We are educating them on the three institutions that make up the financial industry and how to make your financial arrangement with them in a way that would benefit you the most.
This is Chat Night Africa, and my guest, incredibly brilliant, is Mr. Pius Awa, connecting from Houston, Texas. You see, the body that we have is such a complex mechanism. I would even liken it to a car. The older it gets, the more the cables, the veins in the body begin to
get
bring
old.
wahala.
Yeah, they get old.
Yeah.
They get wiggly.
Diabetes sets in, heart issues sets in, just so many. I mean, we're going to get old, and when we get old, our body organs are getting old, and so diseases come. Unfortunately, this is the reality we don't want to talk about. And as I said, running away from an issue, avoiding to talk about an issue, especially issues that are inevitable, the problems don't go away. You're just going to face them at a later stage. So you better look for your umbrella now before rains come. In other words, how well are you preparing for that eventuality? You talked about, the cash value life insurance sounds very appealing. Is it in function of the money that is it a monthly contribution that you make to be able to be eligible for a certain amount? And then what time does this money get blocked? Blocked somewhere that, okay, you sign up that, okay, you're going to be contributing this amount of money every month, and it gets blocked for 20 years, after which you hope to retire. How does it work? Give me practical examples.
It's a very, very good question. And I just want to caution that we're talking about retirement planning here, okay? And
correct.
That's why I said that we can talk about, we can set a time and talk about how we could use the different institutions to actually plan. There are other things that we can do for retirement, like IRAs, like participating in your own 401k at work if your company is matching the funds, or if you've saved up some money during your working career, you can use an annuity. So this the reason I guess you're asking that question is because the cash value thing in insurance is very appealing. But I don't want our audience to lose the focus and think that this is the only. It's a good thing, an incredible instrument that gives you tax advantages. It gives you growth. You can access your money. You can use your death benefit while you are alive. If you get sick, you pass a tax-free death benefit to your kids. You access the money tax-free. It's an incredible tool. In fact, I have a book on my shelf here called The Retirement Miracle, which I recommend for everybody to buy. And it talks about how cash value life insurance can be the retirement miracle for many people. Okay, now
How can one contact you, Mr. Awa? I mean, you have a fountain, you're a
so
reservoir of information. How does somebody contact you after this program?
um, you and I have to work on tweaking the Facebook thing so we can run some information bar down there. I don't know how to do that.
I mean, there's so much
But
equipment we can get for
yeah,
this.
yeah,
Yes, go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
my number is 281. Oh, sorry, no, 832 573 7312.
Would you please repeat that?
832 573 7312.
Are you reachable by email?
Yes. And my email is my first name. I'll write it here. It's Pius, Pius, SAWA at gmail.com.
Thank you, sir. Now, before we go, this program actually was slated to be 1 hour. We kind of overlapped a little bit. But before we go, are there some certain things one can put in a basket that I visited Mr. Awa this evening on Divine? This is what I take home. What's the take-home message this evening, sir?
Absolutely.
Or today on the show?
Don't waste it. If you're not doing anything for your retirement, start today. It's not too early and it's not too late. You could start today and still build a strong financial foundation. And I just want to say that if you called me and referenced this show, whether it's today or any other show that you've watched, I'm going to mail you a free copy of the Saving Your Future book so you can have it for your family. You can start learning the basic principles of building a strong financial foundation. And I just want to leave it at that. I hope we can do more shows like this and pick individual topics and really drill them down so we can educate people. And I'm probably going to work on the technology part so I can do a lot more illustrations. And I really want to talk about using life insurance to plan for retirement or maybe kids' college education or whatever, and dedicate that topic to that so that we can start having the conversation so people can start understanding that it's okay to have that conversation and that it's not a bad thing. And I bet you once you understand, you will want more talk about it, not less. Okay, so that's just my takeaway for today. And I just want to thank everybody for being on the show. And thank you, Brother Divine, for having me on. I'm here anytime you need me or any question anybody has. I'll be more than happy to help.
One more time, sir, your phone number.
832-573-7312. My email is piussawa@gmail.com.
If you have only just joined the show now, I strongly, very strongly recommend that you go back on my page. This broadcast will be posted there and watch from the beginning. If you own a house, if you intend to buy a house, you ought to watch how we started the show. And coming on soon, the firebrand, some people call her controversial woman, Mrs. Veronica Fortune. Watch, the topic will be, what do men do that drive women crazy? What do men do? What do men do that drive women nuts? You don't want to miss Veronica Fortune when she comes on, and she comes on soon. That's how we round off this edition of Chat Night Africa.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you, sir.
I'm coming. I'm coming.
Coming back. That has been Chat Night Africa Live. If it's important to you, it's important to us. Talk on matters that you are concerned
and
about.
when we jam,
That's Chat
it's
Night Africa.
outside. This song right here,
Remember,
it's dynamite.
when you stop learning,
I'm ready.
you start dying.
I'm coming.
Knowledge is power.
I'm coming back.
So we come here to empower
I'm
you,
coming back.
to weaponize you.
I'm coming.
That's Chat Night.
Coming to
The
get
power
down.
of Chat Night
We're
of
gonna
the
get down.
Life.
We're gonna get down. We're gonna dance. We're gonna dance. We're gonna dance.
And your host is Divine Chamukong. I will
I'm
meet
coming.
you very
Coming to get
soon,
down. We're
and
gonna
very
dance.
soon.
We're gonna dance.
Thank you for watching.
I'm ready.
Share this video. Share this
I'm
video.
coming.
Help somebody
I'm
with the
dancing.
information.
I'm dancing. We're gonna dance. We're gonna dance.
Production directors Emmanuel
Party,
Wayne,
We're
Mike
gonna
Fire.
boogie. Boogie.
And my studio director
We're gonna
has
dance.
been Beatrice
Outside.
Formunin.
This song right here is dynamite.
That's Chat
I'm
Night.
ready.
Chat Night Africa
I'm coming.
broadcast
I'm
live
ready.
from Washington,
I'm
D.C.
ready.
metropolitan area.
I'm ready. I'm coming.
Until next time that we meet
I'm
again
dancing.
for yet another
I'm
excellent
dancing.
edition.
I'm ready. I'm coming.
Au revoir à tout le
We're gonna
monde.
dance.
Bye bye to
We're gonna
everybody.
dance. I'm coming back.
I will come back again.
I'm coming back.
That's as sure,
I'm coming.
as sure
We're coming to get down.
as the coming of tomorrow.
I'm coming to dance. We're gonna dance. We're gonna dance.
Thank you for watching.
We're gonna dance.
Thank you.
We're gonna dance. We're gonna get